Hello everyone, and welcome to the summary of session 11 of the free PMP training. Session 11 took place on Wednesday, 26th of February 2025 at 7 p.m. GMT plus 1. In this session, we went through the chapter of assessing project performance. So, as usual, here's the summary of session 11. So, it went for about 3 hours. We've shared around 62 slides. 62 slides. We've had 21 in chapter practice questions, and of course the 10 test questions of chapter 11, and we've covered chapter 11, which is assessing project performance. Okay, so here's our top 10 slides we have picked for you, and also a summary of the session. So we started the session with chapter 11, assessing project performance. First thing we saw was smart goals, like, if you want to make sure your project is in control, make sure that the goals of the project are defined in a smart way. Smart, that's an acronym. S stands for a specific, like, the goal has to be specific. It targets a specific area, for example, for improvement. M, we would be able to measure, whether we have achieved the goal or not. A means the goal should be realistic. R means, like, it should be, it should have added value. Okay, and T is time, like we know by when we need to achieve that goal. Okay, then also we discussed that the purpose of assessing of this chapter is to, one of the main purposes is to understand, like, based on the current trends, like, of expenses or of performance, etc., how can we forecast, like, what's coming. So this is called trend analysis. Okay, and one of the important things we learned in the session was, how to define KPIs, like, key performance indicators. These are measurement metrics, and we have explained, you can define KPIs for your project, based on the OPAs, guidelines, or maybe recommendations from PMO, like a controlling PMO. You can also check the stakeholders' preferences. Maybe there, is mentioned in the project governance. Definitely, to have some industry benchmarking, or maybe you need to, comply with regulations or follow certain standards. So we went on giving certain examples of KPIs, like examples related to time, to performance, to quality, to cost, etc., etc. Okay, so we gave different examples of KPIs, and also talked about, how it's necessary to have just enough KPIs, not to, be overwhelmed by KPIs or vanity metrics which provide no information or no value. We also discussed, how to create a work performance report, how to how to extract the data, analyze the data, and put the data in the report. And we shared an example of a status report. And then we moved on to one of the most important parts of this chapter, which is the earned value management techniques. Okay, so we explained, how earned value is, like, the budgeted cost, or actually, let me put it in a simple way. We try to calculate or estimate in a budgeted way the value of the work completed versus the budgeted cost. Okay, so that's what the earned value was about. And one of the first slides of that part, we discussed, like, what are the main formulas we will see, in regards to earned value management techniques. So we talked about earned value EV, planned value PV. So earned value, this is actually calculated, as a, usually, is calculated based, either you can try to estimate the value of the work completed, or, usually the PMP exam is just a percentage, of the budget, and it's, it tells you, like, for example, well, the work complete so far is X percentage, and then you figure out that you need to multiply that percentage by the budget at completion. So that's how we calculate earned value. Planned value is calculated, like, it tells you, like, the PMP exam, well, the project should have been complete by X percentage by now. So that's, that's a planned value. Actual cost AC usually is given. Budget at completion usually is given. Cost variance CV, we will see how to calculate it. Schedule variance SV, cost performance index CPI, schedule performance index SPI. So these CV, SV, CPI, SPI, these are the most common formulas, or the most common techniques related to earned value, which you might see in the PMP exam. And usually there is just one or two questions about them in the PMP exam. Okay, sometimes you get no questions about them. Okay, so in red, these are the most common ones. In bold here, these are the, let's say, the basic data you need to base to use in order to get these formulas. And then also there is we learned how to calculate the estimate at completion with the four types of formulas, like the typical, the atypical, when the plan is no longer valid, and also in considering the CPI and SPI. The estimate to complete, also we saw how to calculate it. The CPI to complete performance index, we saw also how to calculate it. We come back to this later, and the variance at completion. So these are the most important, actually, formulas we saw, and then we will go in details, in some of them. Okay, one of the most important slides also we explain, like, really what's the earned value, like what's the earned value analysis, like, when we define a project plan from the beginning of the project, like, this light orange here, okay, and the budget at completion, this is the budget of the project, it's called BAC, okay, and then the blue line is the execution, the work completed, and the red line, this is the actual cost. So when there is a difference between the line of the work completed and the line of the plan, that difference is called schedule variance. And when there is a difference between the line of the cost, the actual cost, and the line of the work completed, that variance is called cost variance. Okay, and we will see later. Actually, like, how to calculate that. Okay, so in this chapter, we said that it's very, or as a project manager, it's very, very important always to try to know whether your project is going according to the plan or there is variance. Okay, so you always compare the work done to the baselines. This is in waterfall. Okay, but most of this chapter is in the waterfall, not all of it, but most of it. Now, if the work done equals the baseline, we don't have variance. Just keep doing what we're doing. We're going exactly according to the plan. But if there is variance, like the work done is less than the baseline or is more than the baseline, then there is a variance, and here we need to take action, either corrective action or preventive action. And in this chapter, we went through these types of actions. Okay, now, how to calculate the variances. Now, we saw in the session, cost variance, this is the earned value minus the actual cost. If it's zero, we're on budget. If it's below zero, we're over budget. And if it's above zero, we're under budget. For schedule variance, that's earned value minus planned value. If it's zero, we're on schedule. If it's less than zero, we're behind schedule. If it's more than zero, we're ahead of schedule, which is good. Okay, and also, and of course, we have some exercises, some questions to better understand those. How to calculate the cost performance index, which is a type of KPI. So CPI, that's earned value divided by actual cost. So here is earned value minus actual cost for the variances, but for the performance index is divided by. Okay, if it's 1, we're on budget. Less than 1, we're over budget. More than 1, we're under budget. And for the schedule performance index, SPI is earned value divided by planned value. Like, here we subtract, but here it's divided by. If it's 1, we're on schedule. If it's less than 1, we're behind schedule. And if it's more than 1, then we're ahead of schedule. Okay, this is for the cost variance, schedule variance, and cost performance index and schedule performance index. Then we saw the 4 different ways how to calculate the estimate at completion, as we have mentioned earlier, like the typical formula, for example, like the estimate at completion would be like the budget at completion divided by the cost performance index. The atypical, like, the formula for the estimate at completion in an atypical. We use the atypical formula for the estimate at completion in case we will go back to the original spending and the variance will end. So, like the formula is actual cost plus budget at completion minus earned value. And then we saw different ways other ways how to calculate the estimate at completion. We also saw how to calculate the estimate to complete, okay, which is the estimate at completion minus the actual cost, and the TCPI with the 2 ways, whether we depend on the budget at completion or we use the estimate at completion. And remember, for the TCPI, if it's above 1, it's good. If it's less than 1, sorry, the other way around. For CPI, if it's less than 1, that means it's good. We don't need to perform extra. But if it's less than 1, but if it's more than 1, then it means we need to perform more, like, spend more effort. Okay, then we've had an exercise. I think the exercise was really important, and I'm going to share it with you here, guys, because it will help you understand, okay, these different formulas. So here we have a house. We'd like to build a house for this. We'd like to build a fence for this house. It's a 4-sided fence. and each side would take 1 day to finish and $1,000. Okay, so here we're at the end of day 3, and we would like to check our project performance. So at the end of day 3, we figure out that side 1 is complete and it cost 1,000 according to the plan. Side 2 is complete, but we spent 1,200. So probably we did some extra work probably, or we had some issues. And side 3 was only 50% done and spent 600. Probably there were issues which blocked us or didn't allow us to finish the work. Okay, so we need to calculate the planned value, earned value, actual cost, budget at completion, cost variance, cost performance index, schedule variance, schedule performance index, estimate at completion, estimate to complete, and variance at completion. So here, at the end of day 3, the planned value, the supposed planned value, or the plan was, to finish 3 sites, which is 1,000 times 3, which is 3,000. The earned value, we have completed side 1, side 2, but half of side 3, so actually it's 2,500. The actual cost, so side 1 cost 1,000, side 2 1,200, and side 3 600, so that's 2,800. The budget, the original budget of the project, like it was 4 sites, 1,000 per site, so it's 4,000. Okay, so the cost variance, that's earned value minus actual cost, which is minus 300, so we are 300 over budget. The cost performance index, that's earned value divided by actual cost, so it's 0.893. So for every dollar we're spending, we're getting value for only 89 cents. The schedule variance, that's earned value minus planned value, so it's minus 500, so we're behind schedule, and the value of the delay is 500. Schedule performance index, that's earned value divided by planned value, which is 0.833, so we're actually progressing at 83% of the planned rate. Okay, estimate at completion, that's budget at completion divided by CPI, which is 4,479. So we currently expect that the total project cost will be 4,479. The estimate to complete, that's estimate at completion minus the actual cost. So actually, so it's 1,679. Okay, so we still need that amount in order to finish the project. And the variance then is the budget at completion minus the estimate at completion, which is minus 479. So, and we expect to be $479 over budget. Okay, and then after the exercise, we went on some of the other techniques like the S curve, which is measuring the cumulative cost over a period of time and to compare the baselines. And then we saw some techniques for measuring the performance in the business environment, like the benefit cost ratio, okay, which is the planned value of the expected benefits divided by the planned value of the expected cost. The return on investment, which is the net investment gain times 100 divided by the cost of investment. The net present value, which is we had an exercise about this one, which is like the future value divided by 1 plus the interest rate power n, which is the year minus investment. The purpose of the net present value is to understand like the future cash flows, how much do they worth right now at the moment, and we deduct from that the original investment, and we saw the internal rate of return, and we use it for comparing between projects, and always the project with the highest IRR is the one retained. We also saw the payback period, which is like how much time would it take to pay back the initial investment, and the time to market, which is from the creation of the product until the launch, how much would it take us until we launch it to the market. And then we've had the tips and tricks of the chapter and the 10 test questions. Okay, here are the top 5 practice questions we've picked for you. Not complex, guys, don't worry. Now, so question 1, a project team has been receiving an increasing number of customer complaints about defects in deliverables. As the project manager, you want to assess the overall quality performance of the project and take corrective actions if necessary. Which KPI would best help you measure the quality of the project deliverables? Defect density, risk exposure, schedule performance index, or stakeholder engagement index. Now here, we have problem with the defects of the deliverables. So risk exposure wouldn't help, SPI wouldn't help, schedule engagement index wouldn't help. We need to measure the density of defects and the deliverables. Okay, this is the right answer. Question 2, you're managing complex infrastructure project with multiple stakeholders, including regulatory agencies, senior executives, and external vendors. The project sponsor has asked for a status report that provides a high-level summary of progress while also highlighting potential risks and financial performance. Now, during the preparation of the report, you receive conflicting data from different team leads. regarding schedule delays. So you need to ensure that the report is accurate, reliable, and aligned with stakeholder expectations. So what would you do first to ensure the integrity of the status report? Now, use last approved project baseline to compare reported progress and identify inconsistencies. Probably that last baseline wouldn't be, I don't know if it would be accurate or not. Escalate the issue to the sponsor. Probably that's not the first thing to do, because it asks what's the first thing to do. Exclude conflicting data from the report and involve further verification. Actually, we don't do that. Conduct a meeting with the team leads to reconcile discrepancies before finalizing the report. That would be the first thing to do. Absolutely. Okay. Next, in order to assess the project performance, the project manager calculates both its CPI, which is 1.01, and SPI, which is 0.98. What is the project status? Behind schedule. Now, it's easy. So SPI less than 1, so we're behind schedule, definitely. So, answers B and D, we cannot consider them because they say we're ahead of schedule. That's wrong. And CPI is that's above 1, which means we're under budget. So the right answer is answer A. Absolutely. Okay. Remember, guys, sometimes you get such type of questions in the exam, which is quite easy. Okay. Here's a calculation exam. So calculation exercise. A project that should have been 75% complete. So here now, when you see that sentence, should have been 75% complete or X% complete, that's the planned value. By now, is only 65% complete. So when you say it's X% complete, that's the earned value. Okay. The total budget is 200,000, and the actual cost of work performed is 100,000. Okay, so BAC 200,000, AC 110,000, PV 75% of the 200,000, that's 150,000, and EV earned value 65% of the 200,000, that's 130,000. Okay, so what can be determined from this? So actually, during that session, we calculated the SPI and the CPI, because most of all the answers are looking for the SPI and CPI. So we know SPI is the earned value divided by the planned value. So 130,000 divided by 150,000, that's 0.87. So you see, the only correct one which contains 0.87 is D, actually. That's even before calculating the CPI, which is 130,000 divided by 110,000, which is 1.18. So the right answer is absolutely answer D. Okay. Now, next question. A project team is reviewing a budget early in a project and is surprised at the great cost variances. So at the next retrospective, the team focuses on the budget problem and determines the current funding will be insufficient because all vendors have significantly increased their prices. So what should the project team do next? Activate and spend the contingency amount in the overall budget, or approach management for the release of management reserve, determine estimate at completion and seek approval, or issue a request for proposal that includes cost limitations. So here, the vendors' prices went up. So what to do next? Activate the contingency reserve? No. Ask for management reserve? No. We know when to use them. One is for the identified risks, one for the unidentified risks. Now we cannot consider this as an identified risk because actually, there is a better answer here. You know what to do next. Now, what we need to do is probably recalculate the budget, like the overall cost. What would it be now based on the new prices, and submit the change request and ask for approval. Okay, so submitting a new request for proposal does not guarantee that the vendors will go down with their prices. Okay, so this was it. Thank you so much for watching the summary of the session. The last session number 12 of the free PMP training, will be on Friday, 28th of February at 7 p.m. GMT +1. It's an extremely important session, probably is the most important session in the entire training. We will learn really how to pass the exam. Thank you so much. See you on Friday.